scrolling through Instagram and happened to see Cam Newton and Jemele Hill in a conversation that centered around the idea, as presented by Ms. Hill, that Cam Newton was the only black quarterback who was an NFL analyst on television. And she said she meant major TV, like ESPN. And I thought, wait a minute, what about RG3? And they're probably, they didn't even stop to think if there was any other black quarterback. They they considered the idea. In fact, they really didn't consider the idea. It was more a question: Are are you? No, you. It was. You are the only black quarterback on who's a media analyst on television, and it was presented more as a statement than a question. And Cam agreed that he is, but he's not. They both forgot about RG3. Now, before you respond, hey, he was fired by ESPN, let me inform you, he was hired by Fox Sports to be an analyst. What chafes my hide about this whole thing is it's one more example of how we, as black folks in America, are really quick to put each other down by saying, well, okay, I'm the only one, or you're the only one who's black. When just because they may not be in your circle of friends, or maybe you've got an issue with them of some sort, generally a ridiculous one, mean that they're not, or that you're the only one and they're nothing. You have to give people their due. RG3 is a top flight television analyst focused on the National Football League and, in particular, quarterbacks. He's earned it, he deserves it. Now, Cam says that Tom Brady gets paid more, and so does Tony Romo. Well, let's explore the reasons why that might be. First of all, Tony Romo was a Dallas Cowboys quarterback of some success. Okay, he didn't win a Super Bowl, but for some years he was the mainstay quarterback for the Cowboys. Now, by comparison, Cam Newton was with the Carolina Panthers, led the Panthers to their only, well, not their only Super Bowl, but a Super Bowl, and I was actually at that Super Bowl, and set a number of NFL records that are still listed. Like, for example, yardage for a rookie quarterback. I believe he topped Jameis Winston. So Cam definitely has made his mark in the National Football League, even if his career was cut short by injury, and or you would say cut short by how he handled the New England Patriots during the pandemic. All right, there is that. So I reminded myself of that issue. Okay, and I think really that's the point. If you look at Tony Romo doesn't have an example in his history of having had a run in with his NFL team. And Cam Newton has that. He basically didn't like the situation in New England and took a trip when he should not have, rather than sticking around and realizing that, hey, you know what? They do have the right to make a decision how they want to use their quarterback room. Now, I didn't agree with what the Patriots did, and a number of people didn't, and believe that Cam, you should be the starter. Absolutely. But you don't go and act up, if you will, and do something that you know the organization is going to question, in terms of taking a trip that's not authorized. And if I have that story, the recollection of that story correct. If I don't, let me know. But that's how I remember it. The simple fact of the matter, though, is that there is a story. And as an online reputation management expert, you have to understand that as a public figure, everything that you do is scrutinized, and including that action, and it was heavily scrutinized. Now, does Tony Romo have any similar action in his history? No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Does Tony Romo have a record of trying out for a broadcast and then doing exceptionally well at it? Yeah. Cam, you need a tryout, and you should request a tryout. And so to do color, color commentary, just like Tony Romo's doing. And I think that's the difference. You know, Tom Brady is a color commentator, and so is Tony Romo, but Cam Newton is not paid to be a color commentator at this point, and that's the difference. So, and when I think of analyst, I don't think of a color commentator. I think of an analyst on television, and Cam Newton is that. So the question is, from the perspective of being an analyst, is he well paid? I would be surprised. I don't know what everybody else is making, but I would be surprised if the answer was no. I think of Ryan Clark. I think of Stephen A. Smith, who's the tops of everybody because Stephen A. is multi topic. But in terms of the NFL, Cam has got to be at the top of the list. I would be shocked if he wasn't. NFL analysts are not color commentators. Tony Romo and Tom Brady are color commentators. It's a different mindset. And it's something, however, that Cam can do, in his sleep, unquestionably. But it hasn't happened yet. Uh, RG3 has done color commentating. All right, he has done that. He has that experience in his quiver, his arrow quiver of arrows of different experiences in the National Football League or associated with media or not. In this case, we're talking about media. So RG3 is a well rounded, talented individual who is whipper smart. I had the opportunity to meet and interview him when he was drafted at the NFL draft in New York. I even interviewed his dad, who's a very impressive gentleman. So, and also RG3 was not handled properly by Mike Shanahan. I contend that Mike Shanahan deliberately ran RG3 into the ground to move him out of the way for Kirk Cousins and prove me wrong. Okay? Prove me wrong. I remember that Seattle game where I think RG3 ran the ball something like 29 times, which was insane. Insane. It should have been 15 at best. And it wasn't that RG3 couldn't pick up the passing game, it was just that they didn't know how to coach it well. That's a fact. Some people believe that they have to coach you into understanding their complicated set of instructions. But that's the problem. Their instructions shouldn't be complicated. And if you really know and understand the passing game exceptionally well, you can make the complicated simple. That's the hallmark of someone who really understands what they're doing. To explain it at a level so simple that someone who doesn't know what the person explaining is doing, but is supposed to learn it, can understand it by the way that person who's the teacher teaches it. All right. A lot of people make that mistake of thinking, well, okay, it's my system and you have to understand it. No, well, no, it's your system, but you have to explain it. Because if you can't explain it, guess what? No one's going to run it. And if you can't explain it on paper, like I've seen playbooks that are poorly drawn up, people just draw these patterns, right? But they don't actually write detailed coaching points. That's an insult to the people you're asking to run your offensive or defensive plays. It just is. So, you know, it's not right to treat RG3 that way. In closing, you owe him an apology. RG3 is on Fox Sports. I'm going to make sure he sees my uh, criticism here as well as that you see it. And I do hope that you, even if you don't use my name, I don't care about that, but do respond and give RG3 his props. Cam Newton, you have company. Jemele Hill, you owe RG3 an apology too. See you.